I found out my husband was seeing our neighbor. On her birthday, I crashed the party and showed everyone the gift he gave her. Hi everyone! Before we get into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel's reach has been dropping a bit, and one of the best ways you can support us is by subscribing. It's quick, free, and helps us keep bringing you new and interesting stories. Your support means the world to us, and together we can grow this channel. Thank you so much. Now let's get to today's story. I'm writing from a temporary account for obvious reasons, and I've changed some details to protect my anonymity. You know that moment when your entire world shifts and suddenly everything makes perfect sense? When all those little details you'd been ignoring suddenly form a crystal clear picture? That's exactly what happened to me 3 weeks ago when I found that receipt in David's jacket pocket. I wasn't snooping. I was literally just checking his pockets before throwing his blazer in the dry cleaning bag. Tiffany Co. $3,200 for a tennis bracelet on our anniversary week. I remember thinking, oh my God, he actually remembered. We'd been together for 12 years, married for 8, and honestly, the romance had been dead for so long I'd started to think he'd forgotten I was a woman entirely. But then our anniversary came and went. Dinner at Olive Garden, a card from CVS, no tennis bracelet. That's when the pieces started falling into place. The late nights at work conferences, the new cologne, the way he'd started hitting the gym religiously after years of dad-bod comfort, the careful way he angled his phone away from me when texting, and most telling of all, the way he'd light up whenever our neighbor Mia was around. Mia, 26 years old, blonde, perky, with that insufferable laugh that somehow made every man within earshot think they were the funniest person alive. She'd moved into 4B 6 months ago, right across the hall from us, always asking to borrow things, sugar, coffee, Wi-Fi passwords. I'd catch her lingering in the hallway whenever David came home, wearing those tiny workout sets that left nothing to the imagination. I used to think I was being paranoid, jealous. You know how they gaslight you into thinking you're crazy? She's just being neighborly, Sarah. You're imagining things. Maybe you should talk to someone about these trust issues. But that receipt was real. And if David had spent $3,200 on jewelry that wasn't for me, there was only one other woman in his life who warranted that kind of expense. The next 2 weeks were hell. I became a detective in my own marriage. I checked his phone when he showered. I followed him to work events that didn't exist. I listened at the door when he made calls in his home office. And every single piece of evidence pointed to the same conclusion. My husband was having an affair with our 26-year-old neighbor. The final confirmation came when I found the photos on his laptop. Not explicit ones, thank God, but intimate enough. Her head on his shoulder at some restaurant I'd never been to. His hand on her lower back at what looked like a hotel bar. The two of them sharing dessert, looking at each other the way he used to look at me a lifetime ago. I sat there staring at those photos for what felt like hours, waiting for the devastation to hit. But you know what I felt instead? Relief. Finally, I wasn't crazy. Finally, I had answers. And then slowly, something else crept in. Rage. Not the screaming, crying, throwing things kind of rage. The cold, calculating kind. The kind that makes you very, very dangerous. I could have confronted him right then. Could have thrown the laptop in his face and demanded explanations. Could have marched across the hall and hammered on Mia's door until she opened up so I could show her exactly what kind of man she was sleeping with. But where's the satisfaction in that? Where's the justice? No, David and Mia had been having their fun in secret, making me look like a fool. They'd been careful, sneaky, probably laughing about how clueless I was. Well, if they wanted to play games, I was going to show them how it's done. The opportunity presented itself beautifully. Mia had been planning this big 27th birthday party for weeks, talking about it constantly whenever she bumped into us in the hallway. Pool party at her parents' house in Westchester, all her friends coming, big celebration. David had been acting weird about it, claiming he had to work late that Saturday, making elaborate excuses for why he couldn't possibly attend, except I knew better. I'd already seen the text exchange where she'd sent him her parents' address and told him to come around 8 p.m. after most of the other guests had arrived. "Can't wait to see you," with a little heart emoji. Disgusting. So while David thought I believed his story about working late, I was making my own plans. First, I needed to get into his hiding spots. The tennis bracelet wasn't in his usual places, so I tore apart his home office when he was at actual work, found it tucked inside an old shoebox in the back of his closet, still in the Tiffany bag with a little note, "Happy birthday, beautiful. Can't wait to celebrate properly." Perfect. But a bracelet wasn't enough. I needed something that would really make an impact, something that would leave no doubt about what had been going on. That's when I remembered his laptop password and went back through those photos more carefully. There was one in particular that made my stomach turn. David and Mia kissing outside what looked like a hotel room door. The timestamp showed it was from last Tuesday, when he'd told me he was at a client dinner until midnight. I screenshotted it, printed it in full color on photo paper, and slipped it into a nice frame I bought specifically for the occasion. The morning of Mia's party, David was nervous as hell, fidgeting with his phone, changing shirts 3 times, being overly affectionate with me in that guilty way cheaters do when they're about to betray you again. "I'm really sorry about tonight," he said, kissing my forehead. "This client presentation is crucial. I'll probably be home really late." "Don't worry about it," I told him, arranging flowers in a vase with steady hands. "I understand completely." He left around 6 p.m., claiming he needed to stop by the office first. I watched from our window as he got in his car, and I swear I could see his hands shaking as he checked his reflection in the rearview mirror. I waited until 8:30, wanted to make sure the party was in full swing, that David had already arrived and gotten comfortable. Then I got dressed, not in anything dramatic or vengeful looking. I chose a simple navy blue dress, pearl earrings, my wedding ring prominently displayed. I wanted to look like exactly what I was, a respectable wife bringing a gift to a neighbor's birthday party. The Uber ride to Westchester took 40 minutes. 40 minutes of pure adrenaline, of rehearsing exactly what I was going to say. I'd wrapped the tennis bracelet beautifully, in silver paper with a white bow. The framed photo was in a gift bag with tissue paper. To anyone watching, I looked like any other party guest arriving fashionably late. Mia's parents' house was gorgeous. Sprawling suburban palace with a massive backyard, pool lights twinkling, music and laughter floating through the air. I could see the party was in full swing through the windows. Perfect. I walked up to the front door and rang the bell. Mia's mother answered, looking slightly confused but polite. "Oh, hello. Are you here for the party?" "Yes, I'm Sarah," I said with my brightest smile. "I live across the hall from Mia. I'm so sorry I'm late. I brought a gift for the birthday girl." The woman's face lit up. "Of course. How lovely that you came all this way. Mia will be so surprised. She's out by the pool." She led me through the house, past clusters of 20-something party guests with their drinks and their youth, and their complete obliviousness to what was about to happen. The back doors were open to the patio, and I could see Mia holding court by the pool in a tiny pink bikini, surrounded by friends and admirers. And there, standing slightly apart from the main group but close enough to be part of it, was my husband, looking relaxed and happy in a way I hadn't seen him look at home in years. "Mia!" her mother called out. "You have another guest!" That's when everything went quiet. Mia looked up and saw me, and I watched her face go through about 5 different emotions in 2 seconds. Confusion, recognition, panic, and finally a forced smile. "Sarah," she said, a little too loudly, What a surprise! I didn't know you were coming." The crowd around the pool had gone quiet, sensing something was off. I could see David in my peripheral vision, frozen like a deer in headlights. "Well," I said, maintaining that bright smile, "I couldn't miss your special day. I brought you a gift." I held up the beautifully wrapped box, and several people made those polite "aw" noises you make when someone brings a present to a party. "You really didn't have to," Mia stammered, but she was already reaching for the box. Social conditioning is a powerful thing. Someone hands you a wrapped gift at your birthday party, you open it. "Oh, but I did," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Especially since David was so worried about not being able to give it to you himself. That's when David finally unfroze. "Sarah, what are you doing here?" Every head turned to look at him, then back at me. I could practically see the gears turning in people's heads as they tried to figure out the dynamics at play. "I'm delivering a birthday gift," I said simply, "from my husband to our lovely neighbor." Mia's hands were shaking now as she unwrapped the box. She lifted the lid, saw the tennis bracelet nestled in its Tiffany blue interior, and went completely white. "I don't understand," she whispered. "Oh, I think you do," I said. "David picked it out specially for you, $3,200. He has excellent taste, doesn't he?" The silence around the pool was deafening now. Everyone was staring, phones were probably recording, and I was just getting started. "But wait," I said, reaching into my gift bag. "There's more." I pulled out the framed photograph and handed it to her. "I thought you might want to commemorate your relationship. This one was taken last Tuesday, outside the Marriott downtown. Such a sweet moment." Mia looked at the photo and dropped it. The glass shattered on the pool deck, but the image was still clearly visible to anyone who cared to look. Her and David in a passionate kiss, his wedding ring clearly visible on the hand cupping her face. The crowd erupted. Gasps, whispers, someone saying, "Oh my God," way too loudly. I could see phones coming out now, people realizing they were witnessing something that would live forever on social media. David finally found his voice. "Sarah, let's go home and talk about this." "Talk?" I laughed, and it felt good. Clean. "We're way past talking, David. We're at the gift-giving portion of the evening." I turned back to Mia, who was now crying, mascara running down her cheeks. "Happy birthday, sweetie. I hope you enjoy your present." "All of it." Then I looked directly at my husband. "Since you two are clearly so happy together, I figured I'd save you the trouble of sneaking around anymore. Consider this your coming out party." That's when David made his biggest mistake. He tried to grab my arm, probably planning to drag me away from his humiliation. But I'd been planning for this moment for weeks, and I wasn't going anywhere. "Don't touch me," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "You lost that right when you started fucking our neighbor." More gasps. Someone's mother was definitely clutching her pearls. But I wasn't done. "Did you all know that David and Mia have been having an affair for months?" I asked the crowd conversationally. "While I was home cooking his dinner and doing his laundry, he was here playing house with Barbie." Mia finally found her voice. "Sarah, please, it's not what you think." "It's not what I think?" I turned to her with raised eyebrows. "So you and my husband weren't having secret dates at expensive restaurants? You weren't texting him heart emojis and telling him you couldn't wait to see him? He wasn't buying you $3,000 jewelry while giving me drugstore cards for our anniversary?" She opened and closed her mouth like a fish, unable to form words. "That's what I thought," I said. I looked around at the stunned party guests, most of whom were now openly recording. "Well, this has been fun, but I have places to be. Enjoy the rest of your party, everyone. And Mia? Next time you want someone's husband, maybe make sure his wife isn't smarter than both of you combined." I turned to walk away, then paused and looked back at David one more time. "Oh, and honey, I've already filed for divorce. My lawyer will be in touch about the asset division. Hope she was worth half of everything you own." The walk back through the house felt like a victory lap. I could hear the explosion of voices behind me as everyone started talking at once, but I didn't look back. Mia's mother walked me to the door in stunned silence, probably trying to process what had just happened in her backyard. "I'm so sorry," she said quietly as I reached the front door. "Don't be," I told her. "I'm not." The Uber ride home was the most peaceful 40 minutes I'd had in months. My phone was buzzing constantly with calls and texts from David, but I didn't answer. There would be time for that conversation later, preferably with my lawyer present. When I got home, I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on our balcony, looking out at the city lights. My phone kept buzzing with notifications from social media. Apparently, several people had posted videos of my little performance, and they were already going viral. The comments were overwhelmingly supportive. Queen behavior. She handled that perfectly. I wish I had her courage. David didn't come home that night, or the next morning. I figured he was either at Mia's place dealing with the fallout, or at his brother's house licking his wounds. Honestly, I didn't care which. When he finally showed up on Sunday afternoon, he looked like he'd aged 10 years. His clothes were wrinkled, his hair was a mess, and he had the hollow-eyed look of a man whose entire world had imploded in front of an audience. "We need to talk," he said. "No, we don't," I replied, not looking up from my book. "My lawyer will do all the talking from now on. Sarah, please, I know I messed up, but we can work through this. Couples therapy, whatever you want. Mia was a mistake." That's when I finally looked at him. "A mistake? David, you bought her a $3,000 tennis bracelet. You took her to romantic dinners. You were planning to leave me for her. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. Multiple choices." He tried to argue, to minimize, to somehow make me understand that it wasn't that serious, and he never meant for it to go so far. But I was done listening to his lies. "Get out," I said simply. "This is my house, too." "Not for long. Pack a bag and get out. Come back when my lawyer says you can." He left, and for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe properly. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of legal meetings, paperwork, and phone calls from friends who'd seen the viral videos. The story had taken on a life of its own online. I became the woman who'd perfectly executed the ultimate cheater's revenge, and honestly, I was okay with that reputation. Mia moved out of 4B 2 weeks later. Word in the building was that her relationship with David had ended almost immediately after the party. Apparently, public humiliation and viral fame weren't quite the aphrodisiacs she'd expected. Who could have seen that coming? David tried to reconcile a few more times, showing up at my door with flowers and apologies and promises to change. But I was already changed. I'd remembered who I was before I became half of a couple with a man who didn't respect me. I'd remembered what it felt like to be strong. The divorce was finalized 3 months later. I got the apartment, half the savings, and my dignity back. David got Mia for about a month before she dumped him for someone without quite so much baggage. Last I heard, he was living in a studio apartment in Queens and had to change his social media accounts because of all the negative attention from the viral videos. Sometimes people ask me if I regret making such a public spectacle, if I wish I'd handled it more privately, more maturely. But here's the thing. David and Mia made the choice to humiliate me privately for months. They made me look like a fool in my own marriage, in my own home. They thought they were so clever, so careful, so much smarter than the boring wife who couldn't possibly figure out what was going on. So no, I don't regret giving them a taste of their own medicine. They wanted drama? They got drama. They wanted attention? They got more than they bargained for. And me? I got my life back. The best part is how it ended for them. Mia thought she was getting this successful, charming older man who would take care of her and make her feel special. Instead, she got a divorced, humiliated cheater whose finances were decimated by the settlement and whose reputation was in tatters. She wanted him so badly. Well, she got him. All of him. The debt, the baggage, the public shame, and the knowledge that if he cheated on his wife of 8 years, he'd probably cheat on her too. As for David, he lost everything that mattered, his marriage, his home, his dignity, and his future. All for a few months of feeling young again with a woman who dropped him the second things got complicated. They deserved each other. And they deserved exactly what they got. I'm dating again now. Nothing serious yet, but I'm in no rush. For the first time in years, I'm happy being alone, being myself, being the woman who refuses to be disrespected in her own life. And whenever I'm having a bad day, I just remember the look on their faces when that photo frame shattered on the pool deck, and I smile. Sometimes the best revenge really is served cold, with a side of public humiliation and a viral video for posterity.